good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another session of Beyond Connections, our bi-weekly show where you have the chance to ask us, the analysts of Abacus Securities, your questions about the stock market, your portfolio, any specific economic or corporate development that you might be curious about. My name is Bess. I am one of the analysts of Abacus Securities, and I'm joined today by these two wonderful gentlemen right there.
Hi guys, good afternoon. I'm Rainier and I'm also one of the analysts for Abacus Securities, and
I am Isaiah, one of the technical analysts for Securities.
Okay, guys, how have you been? What are you looking at? I see, as usual, I want to ask you about your thoughts on the PSEI from a technical standpoint.
Sure. Maybe we can show what the index has been doing recently. Just have a quick glance of what the index looks like. Thank you so much. So many of the indices down today. I included the index range bound between 6,500 to 6,200 with a bit of a sideways to down bias. All shares is looking a bit better with some of the smaller companies pushing the index higher. Still also range bound 3,700 to the 3,700. Just check. Closer to the 3,800 level. So what's it going to take, Bess, Rainier, to finally get this breakout happening?
and I think as IC may, or as you can see on IC's chart there, on the right side, you can see the USD and PHP. So basically the forex, we are going to see some quite spike on the dollar rate with the peso depreciating further. And that is likely one of the catalysts as well on the decline for the PSG. Although we are looking at several developments on our front, basically earnings, there are a number of companies that have reported already, and I think Bess will explain some of the bigger ones. But we are also anticipating, and the next 2 weeks, there will be a lot more companies reporting their first half earnings. So that's something that may move the needle for the PSEI, and basically some selected issues that we can anticipate.
Yes, now speaking of corporate earnings that have reported recently, a lot of the banks have already submitted their second quarter results. Not all of them have given their full financial statements yet, but we have already seen some good and bad numbers for the bank. So I see we already have some questions on the chat from Rand's Realtor. What's your fundamental and technical insights for JFC and BPI? Is the current price range today a good start to accumulate for these two? So Rainier will tackle JFC, but BPI is one of those companies that you hear report earnings early, and they were one of the banks that reported earnings, and it was just within or in line with market expectations. We are seeing further expansion in their NIMs above industry average loan growth, which led to higher top line for BPI. But I suppose the net income number only came up to within market expectations because of higher provisioning, although we are not that concerned with the increasing provisioning and NPL ratios of or non-performing loans ratios of BPI, since they are, or this is to be expected, since they are embarking on growing their, or they have already embarked on growing their consumer loan portfolio, which is inherently higher risk, but also higher returns for them, which we see with the growth in their top line as well as their bottom line. Before I discuss the other banking earning results, maybe IC can do a technical read on BPI, and then we can move on to the JFC part of the question.
Uh, sorry, technical read on, this is Jollibee.
BPI.
BPI muna. Excuse me. So BPI has recently encountered, well, technically a golden cross here, which is generally bearish, but is already approaching the support at 116 pesos and 60 cents. So if you're already buying company for its value, then this looks like a decent level to get into the company. The trend is still down.
And while IC pulls up the chart for JFC, I think tomorrow will be the start of the new reciprocal tariffs to the Philippines, which is set at 19%. And JFC is one of the companies that will be impacted by the US tariffs, mainly because of their US business. So Jollibee, North America, and some of its brands will experience some headwinds and higher costs because they do import some of the raw materials that they use in North America. So that is one of the reasons why JFC has been sluggish over the past weeks or months. But our earnings outlook for JFC remains to be positive, and we believe that current levels are attractive for the food giant. So maybe you can take a look at the technicals for JFC.
So the technicals, as you can also see, still the trend is still down. So I'm using the Bollinger Bands here to properly gauge pessimism, so where it usually tests the bottom. So the support would probably closer to maybe 214 to 208, where it may find a low in that area. So yeah. Hope that answered your question.
And if you guys have or had been able to catch our market outlook for the second half of this year, these two stocks are two of those that we are quite positive on for the rest of 2025. So maybe that's why Rance is asking. Maybe you already saw the market outlook. So while we wait for more questions, I should maybe discuss the other banks that have reported earnings this week and last week. So the other big bank, BDO, reported flattish net income growth, which is slightly behind market expectations. This is even with strong top line growth. Again, also because of higher provisioning expenses, since BDO is taking a rather conservative stance and bulking up their provisions for probable losses, since also their consumer loan book is growing a bit sharply. Although in terms of the percentage share to their total loan book, it's still about a little less than a quarter. So we do expect. We are quite neutral on BDO since we expect the BDO stems to be stable at best and might even see some decline in the next few quarters. The expansion that it saw in the second quarter is only because of lower interest expense. That is the immediate result of the BSP rate cuts that were implemented a few weeks ago. But that should fade away, and we have already seen a bit of a decline in their asset yields, and the impact on asset yields should be a bit, or should start to be felt more, especially since we are expecting further rate cuts from the BSP this coming month, and maybe another one in the third and fourth quarter. And then we just check still the questions on the chat. So maybe IC can do some technical analysis on video as well. But okay. We have a question on Sirit. Hello, MyTrade team. Is Series up for a correction or pullback or breakout? Thanks much again and more power. So this is more of a technical question. I think maybe you can pull up a chart.
So based on its past behavior, possibly could be due for. So this is very long ascending channel and just recently broke out of the channel. Its oscillator is also at all-time high. So can it pull back? Probably be, if it breaks below the 20-day MA, then you may want to use that to lock in any short-term gains if that's what you want to do. Lock in some short-term gains and maybe move the money around to something else. That's what you want.
Although I think just to provide some fundamental insights on Siri, since I think one of the main drivers for Siri this year is the expected asset infusion from its parent CREC. We are expecting that to happen later this year and probably closer to, actually in just a few days or a few weeks. CREC could provide some updates with regards to the asset types and asset quantity, or basically how big the asset infusion will be. Then another catalyst for Siri is also the rate cuts that are expected to happen in the next few months that would benefit basically the higher yielding stocks, especially for the REITs and the high yielding stocks. So the likes of LTG, DMC, and SEC. So something that is benefiting those names.
Okay, thanks for that, guys. Next question. Maybe someone can.
Yeah, I think there's a question on from Gio Lapas in comments regarding DD, please. Thank you. For DD, I think the play is done. I think over the past year or so, the play there was the Hotel 101 listing in the US NASDAQ, and I think that already happened last month or so. And after that, DD has pretty much flattened out, and we don't see any catalysts moving forward. In terms of earnings, we don't really see it as one of those names uh, that would significantly affect your portfolio, especially if you're looking at growth, given the pipeline projects for DD. So we retain our neutral stance on DD and probably look elsewhere for the property sector.
Oh, you want to show the chart? So
So
we can do a quick look at the chart. So back in June, DD experienced high volume breakout, but it wasn't able to sustain. So it's back to even lower to where it started. So not much going on so far for DD double down.
Okay, thanks for that. Next question. Okay, insights for JJS and ASEN. I think you can also. Faye is also asking about ASEN and Ali. So ASEN is about to do their SRO in a few months, I believe. So there is there is a possible overhang over the next few months after that is done. But in the more nearer term, we are expecting or we are expecting, their Australia solar operations to contribute more to earnings. Um, Although there might be some weakness in their Philippine operations, this might be an opportunity to buy on weakness for ACN, um, as we still expect over the long term for the company to perform well. Um, Before we move on to Ali and JJS, maybe Rainier can add, or there might be some technical viewpoint. I see.
I think for ASEN, that's pretty much covered, especially the overhang on the SRO. I think that's really one of the key things that the market is anticipating, especially the pricing of that. I think we will hear more updates by next week, and we'll probably do so, or they'll probably do the SRO by September. So maybe you can pull up the chart for ASEN.
Okay. So ASEN, like Rainier said, it's quite SRO, but the technicals look okay. So maybe after, would you say after the SRO, it would, I don't know, probably react bullishly this chart?
I think based on historical behavior, not only from ASEN's SRO previously, but also to other SROs. I think it takes time after the SRO after the SRO shares are listed. It also takes time for the stock to move upwards. But generally, it has been positive, especially the purpose of the SROs is for capital raising activity that would boost the operations for companies like ASEN. So the key thing to watch out here is the pricing again, which was mentioned previously by ASEN themselves, that they would at the minimum price the stock at, or price the SRO at 230. So I think as much as possible, investors can, especially long-term investors, can start picking up ASEN as close as possible to 2.3 or 230.
LLM on the other hand, nice. What's LLM? Yeah, just quickly, sorry. LLM made a huge reversal here, possibly testing the 50 days. So if we can just hold above this level, it will continue its current run. So hopefully it will be an opportunity to buy on weakness. So that's it for Ali.
Then for Ali as well, I think it's also one of the narratives that has been going around in terms of the vacancies in offices and the residential take-up. Since Ali is pretty much at the front of those categories in the property sector, and their second quarter earnings might be crucial as well in terms of how they are faring in the second quarter. And as mentioned by IC, that it could be a reversal already that we are seeing. I think some property consultants are already signaling a turnaround or reversal for the property sector, but remains to be seen whether that holds true. But there is the tailwind, or the benefit of the rate cuts that would boost the take-up for residential.
Yes, and additionally, I think it was recently in the news that Ali is planning on adding to their mall portfolio, which should offset some of the weakness in the property development side. I think it was around the 700,000 square meters of gross usable area that they're planning to add over the next 5 years. So that should mean more recurring income for Ali, more or less dependence on residential sales, and would be a bit more similar to SMPH in that regard. I think we missed the question also asked JGS about JGS. So maybe a technical viewpoint first.
Yes, so while okay, maybe IC can show the chart first, then provide some insights on JGS.
Okay, so JGS. So it kind of, to me at least, looks like a bit of a inverted head and shoulders. So you have a bit of small shoulder here, then shoulder here, right? And you also have the today crossing above the 200-day moving average, which is the golden cross. So you have that long-term trend change. So some support at about 20 pesos and some resistance at 21.80. So it's a nice looking setup.
Yeah.
For a trend.
Yeah. So just to follow up on what IC mentioned on JGS, I think this is being driven by the company finally shutting down its operations on the petrochem business. That's one of the things that we mentioned earlier this year, that if they decide to sell their petrochem business, then that would be a key driver or key catalyst for JGS. And in the first quarter, they already mentioned their intention to sell it, and we would hear the updates in the next 2 weeks when they hold their briefing. And I think it's going to be a positive update from JGS that would influence the share price on the upside. So that is worth watching for JGS, and we believe that it continues to be undervalued at this point. So I think it's a good stock to hold on to, or probably initiate the position with the guidance of technicals.
Okay, thanks guys. Next question. Or not a question but a comment. PSE as usual front running kapag downturns. Next question. Until when do you think that will this anti-Marcos campaign battle using online gambling issue continue? We really don't know what will happen, what the president will decide, but I think it was in the news earlier that the Senate Ways and Means, I think, si Erwin Tulfo is the head of the Committee for Ways and Means, and he is planning on asking the president to issue an executive order. But of course, that's probably going to only be a suggestion, and we don't know yet what the president will decide on that. And also, it's mostly the Senate that is advocating for total ban. We will still have to hear from the Ways and Means Committee and what's the term? Games and Amusement Committee from the lower house, since legislation has to also go through the lower house and not just the Senate. So it's really hard to tell. So we believe there would still be some volatility for Plus in particular, which is what the question is probably hinting at. So Plus already dropped quite a lot today because of this recent news, and it will probably go up and down, up and down, up and down over the next few weeks as this is discussed over and over again in the news. The upside is we still expect Plus to enter the index. The index parameters were locked in at the end of June. So all of this noise and volatility in Plus started in July, so that shouldn't affect its chances of being added to the index unless the PSE will issue some new rule unexpectedly or make use of their discretion, but they will have to make it clear to industry stakeholders and analysts what the reasoning for that could be. So yeah, we are expecting an announcement soon from the BSE regarding the index recomposition. If not tomorrow, probably next week. That answers the question from Rans. What are the chances that Plus will be added in the PSEI? So hopefully that answered your question. Next one from Sarmiento Jeric. Which one do you think will be included in the index, Plus or RCR? Plus is the one that we believe will be included next month. RCR has a very, very good chance of being added in February next year. Not just because it's currently the next in line in terms of market cap after Plus, if it's only cut off at the June cutoff date for the August rebalancing, but also we are expecting RCR's market cap to increase because of the new shares that will be issued from the infusion of assets from RLC that will probably, if the price doesn't move in a big way in the next 6 months, that will shoot up market cap for RCR and will result in its addition to the index in February next year, if everything else stays the same. So, hope that answers your question, Sarmiento Jeric. Maybe this one next, which we unintentionally skipped over, from Mary Santos, DMC and Keeper. I assume this means technical and fundamental viewpoints. Let's start with technical first. I see.
DMC. So DMC has been pretty much trendless. So for trend followers, there's not as much to do. It has a sideways down bias. Keeper on the other hand, let's check. Keeper on the other hand, I believe its shorter term trend ended back in about July 10th. So it's experiencing some weakness. So we'll probably need to break back above this downtrend line here. See it change its current downtrend. So that would be Keeper, the technicals on Keeper.
So thanks, IC, for the technical insights. But just to add on Keeper, Keeper in terms of earnings still remains strong, but one believes that one of the reasons why Keeper has been weak, as IC indicated over the past weeks, and the trend has been broken, is because of the unfavorable forex, particularly for the euro. I think the euro versus the pesos now depreciated to, I think, close to about 68. That if you compare it to the previous year, was trending at about 60 to 61. So it's also a steep increase since Keeper is an imported spirits player, so they import a lot of their products coming from Europe, and they do have the option to pay either in euro or in USD. However, both have been unfavorable against the peso, so that would take a hit on Keeper's margins. We don't have visibility yet whether they have increased prices to account for the forex flows or movement, but I think definitely there would be some margin hit for Keeper that would impact its earnings and its potential dividends for next year. Okay, then next for DMC. DMCI is also one of the dividend stocks that we mentioned earlier today. But I think the question for Keeper is whether they are able to sustain their dividends. And I think since October of last year, they have cut down their payout compared to where they were back in 2022 to early 24. And I think that is one of the reasons why there is some weakness on PMCI. And this is coming from the weaker contribution from Semirara or SEC because of the lower coal prices that affected its earnings. So I think I do see the coal prices as more of a stabilization, given the 2022 spike was really out of the ordinary and has really bumped up the yields for SEC and DMCI. So probably at this point where dividends are for DMCI and SEC, it may be sustainable at this point. So that's where we are looking at in terms of the year of their payouts stabilizing. So I think at current levels, it's still attractive as a dividend play, given that the annual yield is still about double digits compared to the other dividend plays.
Okay, thanks, guys. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. I see we still have a few questions in the chat. We will do our best to try to answer that in our Facebook group, MyTrade Map, for current clients of Abacus Securities and MyTrade. So if you're not yet a client, please sign up. Where that's aside from access to that Facebook group, you will also be receiving our daily reports where most of the answers to your questions can be found actually. And also you can rewatch the market outlook as well as other episodes of Beyond Connections here on the MyTrade YouTube page. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Coming few weeks with earnings season ramping up will be quite interesting. So kapit lang, guys. So any parting words, IC and Rainier?
Just want to wish everyone the best of luck in their trades in the next coming days and weeks.
Yeah, so thank you everyone for joining us today. Hope to see you guys in the next Beyond Connections. There will be a lot of developments, and I think our contribution would be through our short takes. And so if you're not yet MyTrade, or if you don't have a MyTrade account yet, please do feel free to message us through our web pages and be able to stay updated on what will happen in the next few weeks. So thank you again, everyone. See you next time.